I remember the exact moment my world learned how to break. It was not loud, not dramatic, not the kind of tragedy movies prepare you for. It arrived quietly, wrapped in an ordinary afternoon, and by the time I noticed, everything I loved was already falling apart. This is not a story about heroes or villains. It is about a single choice, a fragile bond, and the cost of silence. When I was 9, my mother used to leave the porch light on every night. She said it was so I would never feel lost, even if I came home late. I believed her. That light became my promise that no matter how dark the road felt, there was always somewhere safe waiting for me. I did not know then that lights can burn out, and people can too. My father left early, not with shouting, but with absence. One morning his shoes were gone, his mug untouched, and his laughter erased from the walls. My mother smiled more after that, a smile stretched thin like glass. She worked longer hours, spoke fewer words, and learned how to survive without asking for help. I learned how to listen to silence. Years passed. I grew older, taller, quieter. I learned how to hide my feelings behind good grades and polite answers. Teachers praised me. Neighbors admired me. No one noticed how heavy my chest felt every night, or how often I stared at that porch light, wondering how something so small could feel like the only thing holding me together. Then came the winter, everything changed. My mother fell sick, slowly at first, then all at once. Hospital rooms replaced kitchens. Machines replaced conversations. I held her hand and told her stories she was too tired to answer. The porch light stayed off more nights than on. The night she didn't come home, the house felt hollow, like it was holding its breath. I sat on the steps outside, staring into the dark, waiting for a light that never turned on. That was the moment I understood something terrifying and true. Sometimes love does not leave loudly. Sometimes it fades, and you only realize it is gone when you are already alone. I stayed there until morning, learning that grief has weight, temperature, and sound. It hums in your ears and settles in your bones. I realized the porch light was never just a bulb. It was my mother's way of saying stay, survive, keep going. And even in darkness, that message was still alive inside me. Grief did not arrive like a storm. It settled like dust, coating every thought until breathing felt optional. After the funeral, people returned casseroles and borrowed sympathy, then returned to their lives. I returned to the house. Rooms remembered her better than I did. Her sweater still smelled like soap and patience. I wore it once, then folded it away, afraid memory would fade if I touched it too often. School resumed. Bells rang. Hallways roared. I learned how to nod while my chest caved inward. Friends asked careful questions. I answered carefully back. Teachers praised resilience. I practiced it nightly, counting ceiling cracks instead of tears. The porch light remained off. I told myself it was just a bulb. I did not replace it. Money grew tight. I took a job after classes, stacking boxes until my hands ached. The ache felt honest. Pain you can name behaves better. On breaks, I watched strangers pass, each carrying invisible bags. I wondered what they hid and whether any light guided them home. One evening, I found my mother's notebook in a drawer. Recipes mingled with reminders and prayers. On the last page, a sentence waited, written small. Careful, if I'm not here, choose kindness first. The words felt heavier than the boxes I lifted. Kindness, I learned, can be a burden when you are empty. Weeks blurred. Winter thinned into gray. I stopped expecting mornings to fix anything. Then during a blackout, the house sank into complete darkness. I reached for a flashlight that wasn't there and laughed, sharp and surprised. In that quiet, I remembered the porch light wasn't power. It was intention. The next day, I bought a bulb. It was cheap, ordinary, almost insulting. I screwed it in at dusk, hands shaking, heart louder than the crickets. When it flickered on, the yard warmed. Not healed, warmed. I stood there longer than necessary, letting the glow touch my face, letting myself be seen by nothing at all. That night I slept without counting cracks. I dreamed of doors opening easily. Grief did not leave. It loosened its grip. I learned then that survival is not dramatic. It is maintenance. It is choosing again and again to turn a small light on. Morning brought work, study, and repetition. Yet something subtle shifted inside me. Kindness stopped feeling like weight and started acting like momentum. Each small act steadied me. Hope began quietly. I resented their confidence. Healing felt like betrayal, like admitting my mother's absence was survivable. Yet the light on the porch stayed on, faithful, steady, reminding me that forward motion does not erase love. I volunteered at the community center after work, mostly to stay busy. That's where I met Eli. He was younger, quieter, with eyes that searched rooms the way mine once did. He never spoke about home, but he lingered near exits and flinched at raised voices. I recognized the language of unspoken things. One afternoon, Eli asked why the porch light was always on. I told him it helped people find their way. He nodded, then asked if lights ever get tired. The question stunned me. I said maybe, but they rest when someone else keeps them shining. He smiled. Mentoring him changed the temperature of my days. Responsibility pulled me out of myself. When he struggled with homework, I stayed late. When he laughed, it felt earned. Kindness multiplied. Then came the letter. A distant aunt offered to sell the house. The words were practical, reasonable, devastating. Walls hold echoes. Selling felt like erasing a language. I sat on the steps, the porch light warming my knees, and weighed memory against motion. I packed slowly. Each item argued for its place. On my final night, I unscrewed the porch bulb and left it on the step. Light, I learned, is transferable. The move was smaller than grief made it seem. A studio, a window, a lamp by the door. At dusk, it glowed. I sent Eli a photo. He sent one back, a nightlight beside his bed. Months layered into years. I graduated. I worked. I loved carefully. Grief taught me attention. Love taught me courage. Together, they taught me how to build home anywhere a light can be switched on. Adulthood did not arrive with certainty. It crept in wearing responsibility. I learned how to budget joy and sit with silence. The lamp by the door became ritual. Every evening, I switched it on, choosing presence. Eli grew taller. His questions sharpened. He asked whether roots hurt when pulled up. I told him roots don't scream. They stretch. He listened like someone deciding who to become. On the anniversary of my mother's passing, I cooked her recipes. I read the notebook aloud and cried without apology. Grief learned to share space with gratitude. Then the call came. Eli had been accepted. Scholarship. A future shaped like permission. He handed me the old porch bulb he'd kept safe. You left it first, he said. We installed it together. It glowed warmer than memory. Legacy, I realized, is what we give forward. After he left, the apartment felt alive. Night lights became desk lamps. Desk lamps became street lights. The chain continued. Sometimes, when the world feels fragile, I stand by the window and switch the lamp on. Stay, survive, keep going. Years later, the light still turns on. Not always the same lamp, but the same intention. I learned endings are quieter than beginnings. I moved again, by choice. New streets. On the first night, I installed the bulb Eli gave me. It fit perfectly. Eli visits with stories of ambition and coffee. He calls my mother his lighthouse. I don't correct him. I mentor now. I leave lights on in hallways and hope in conversations. Light doesn't ask who deserves it. Grief still visits politely. I let it in, then walk it out and turn the lamp on. Love doesn't end. It changes jobs. If you're watching this and carrying something heavy, you don't need to fix everything tonight. Replace a bulb. Sit with the glow. Someone once left the light on for me. Now I do it for others.